Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Living Astrology with Janet. It's time to grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back and relax while we chat about what is happening up in the stars above us. It's the weekend, Friday. Always glad to have a Friday. And I'm so glad that you are here with me this morning. And out there this morning, I already saw Julie. Nice to have you with us. And Christine, and of course, my sweetheart, Terry. And it's always nice when people pop in right away and are excited or jazzed up to hear about what is going on in the astrology. And today we're also going to dive into the human design of the month of February. So for those of you who joined me on Wednesday when I was having my chat with Tam about the energies for February, we didn't get a chance to really talk about the human design aspects very much. And because her audience also tunes into that show and they're not as familiar with human design, I always save that for our conversations because I know that all of you have much more information on human design. So besides the Leo full moon today that we will be talking about, Sunday's full moon in Leo, we will be talking about the energies for February because, February is that month that sits on the fulcrum between the January opening of the calendar year, but it opens up in this dream time. And February begins this emotional alignment energy that starts to rev up our motors for doing something that then in March becomes the time of action, right? Where we start the things that we are meant to start or the things that we desire to start. So today we're going to talk about the month of February, the solar plexus, and what the different human design gates and the gene keys of February have to do with the bigger story that's unfolding for all of us. So good morning, Tom. I just saw you pop in. Good to see you out there this morning as well. And at the end today, we might have some time if you have specific questions about your own human design or even about the Leo full moon in your own personal charts. Please jump in and write your comment down there and I will talk to you about that. So this Leo full moon, I'm actually going to show a chart, and this is a different chart. This is a chart that I'm using now directly from an astrology program that I have that shows both of the lunations for the month ahead. So on the top, you see this is the February full moon that occurs on February 1st. I mean, we jump right into the month with the full moon energy in Leo, and this is set for Washington, D.C., i.e. Eastern Standard Time, and that is at 5:09 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So for us on the West Coast, 2:09 p.m. West Coast or Pacific Time. And this is an interesting full moon, to be sure. If you look at the pattern across this full moon, you see that the moon over here in Leo is the only aspect, the only planet that's actually in Leo, and it is holding the tension of the opposing sun, but also Pluto, Mars, Venus, and Mercury. Now, even though Pluto and Pluto's kind of far away from, this, it's 10 degrees, right? 10 degrees is not far away with Pluto. And then when we look and we see at the other end, Mercury's at 21 degrees. That's just outside of what we would typically call the orb. I just think if we look at this, we cannot take away from the fact that there is this bunch of planets, a stellium of planets, in Aquarius, that the moon is the only planet holding the tension of the opposite four. And I believe that when we see something like this, that, we have to really pay attention. It's almost, well, first of all, if you look at just look at the pattern of this chart. My printer's deciding to print all on its own. How very odd. I didn't ask you to print. I don't know. Anyway, if you look at this chart, you see, if you draw a line right across the horizon, that most of the planets, including all of the Aquarian planets, are above the horizon. When we see planets above the horizon like this, it's an indication that there's a lot going on outwardly in the collective. So the houses from 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, they really are showing us more of the extroverted or collective, cultural, societal energies. And when we look at the houses below the horizon line, this is called the northern hemisphere at the bottom of the chart. Then, that's houses 1 through 6 in your astrology chart. You see, the moon is the only one. It is the only one holding this, not only the tension of the opposing stellium and Aquarius, but it's the only one that is bringing home anything to the personal. So this moon, if you just look at this pattern, tells us that this moon is very personalized, right? The emotional component of this moon is very personalized. And it's holding that tension against all of the more societal, cultural planets up above that horizon line, including all of the Aquarian planets, the planets or points that are left in Pisces, the newly Neptune in Aries, and then Uranus in Taurus, and Jupiter in Cancer. So it's one of these things that we look at where we see that this Leo moon is sort of the emotional fulcrum of this entire chart, of this entire time period. And Leo is not ego here. Sometimes we think of Leo as pride and ego and drama queen or drama king, but here it's really the heart and the courage and the creative life force that, and the right for us to exist as sovereign beings without, the government or anybody else for that matter telling us who it is that we have to be. And the moon in Leo here is really asking us, what am I willing to stand for? Even if my voice shakes, right? Even if I have to get up in front of the room or get here on YouTube or Facebook and state my case, even if that's shaky and wobbly and my mind wanders or I, lose my train of thought, this is what this moon is all about. Now, Aquarius on the other side, the stellium, where the sun is, the sun shining. If you look, the sun is exactly in the middle, right? It's in the middle. It's being flanked by Mars and Pluto on one side of it, and on the other side by Venus and Mercury. And I think that's interesting to look at too. It's like the sun's bright light is shining outward, and it almost can drown out the light of the other planets, right? Because it's not quite cazimi because they have to be within 1 degree of one another, but it's close enough that I think that the sun's bright light, the essence of the energy, is very powerful right now. And Aquarius in this stellium is really representing the collective, right? The sign Aquarius is about humanity. It is about the humaneness or not of humanity. And it also is the representation of the systems and structures and ideologies and belief systems that we all have out there, the variety of those different ideologies, systems, and structures. And it is future oriented. When we look at January, for example, January was named after the god Janus in, I think it's Roman mythology. And Janus was the two-headed god, right? The two-headed god, one face facing the past and the other face the future. And here we have January, the ending of January and the beginning of February, with this future trajectory coming up for humanity. And that is huge when we think about all the things that are happening in the world around us and the rising tide of the polarization that we may see in the outer world. And this is truly about groupthink versus true shared vision. Now, you might say right now, and try not to be, adhering to your personal political point of view here. Step back from that for just a minute and think about what the groupthink is versus people who have a true shared vision. Because I think when you look outward in the world, you see that there's a lot of groupthink, a lot of followers, a lot of loyalty being cast to the to one side, not the other. And I constantly look at this and think about that versus the shared vision. What is the shared vision we have? Do we even know what our shared vision is anymore? Because no one out there has brought this up and I'm talking politics now, or even just in the regular cultural world where we have people who step up and speak, is there anyone out there with the guts enough to stand up and say what it is that our true shared vision is? This is the opportunity, right? This is the opportunity we have right now for someone, or maybe it's not someone, maybe it's all of us stepping up and talking about our shared vision. And it's okay if our shared visions are a little different, right? They can be, they should be different, right? Because we're all different people. We all come at this from a different place. But what we need to avoid, and that what this chart seems to be saying to us, is avoid the group think, right? Avoid being loyal to something so, and adhering to something so tightly that you can't see the truth or the falsehood in it, right? So being very careful. Now, the tension then of this full moon isn't about self versus others. Don't take it in that respect, even though in this chart it looks like it's across the first and the seventh house, which it is for the chart of the event, but it could be in a different place for you personally. So this isn't just about the self versus others. It's really about the heart-led truth versus those impersonal systems or impersonal departments out there, right, of different people's viewpoints out there that, you know, take us out of the impersonal, that dehumanize what's happening in the world, right, or what's happening right in front of us. So this full moon really asks whether our future of humanity is guided by lived feeling or and moral courage, because I think that comes into it as well, or is it about abstraction and detachment and standing back and just observing without engaging? So I find then that this Leo full moon is a bit of an emotional guardian for us. And that's backed up even further as we see the whole of the month being dominated by human design gates that fall on the solar plexus. And I'll be taking you into that individually here in a moment, or through the individual gates in a moment. And because this moon kind of rules the emotional responses and instincts, Leo does become the guardian of the truth, the emotional truth, right? The real truth. And the moon doesn't want neutrality here. The moon, you know, the moon can't be neutral. It's not meant to be neutral because it's emotional, right? It does want presence, however. Your presence is requested. Actually, your presence is required. And that means stepping up and really feeling and tapping in, because the Leo energy says, I feel that, or I feel this. I feel your pain. I feel this craziness. And it says, I care. Beyond the I feel this, it says, I care about this. And it says that this matters to me. And that's the crucial thing, because Aquarian energy unchecked, and you've got a domination here of Aquarian energy. Aquarian unchecked can rationalize harm in the name of progress. We see a lot of rationalizing out there of what is happening in the immigration world and in Minneapolis and in just everything. I mean, you could go right down the line through all the systems, through all of the departments of life, compartments of life, and you can kind of see where the rationalization for harm is present, and it's in the name of progress. Now, the Leo new moon then, or full moon, becomes the conscience of the chart, the conscience of humanity. So very important full moon that we are facing here. Now, even though Neptune is not a player in the sense that it's, you know, within orb of the moon or in orb of the sun, it is interesting because Neptune just moved into Aries, and it carries with it its last visit to this sign, which happened to have coincided with the Civil War in the United States. Now, there were other things and progress problems that were going on around the world as well, but I live here, so I'm going to speak to this, you know, time period. And Neptune, newly back into the sign of Aries, is spiritual courage. Now we have to have, now we're not just the physical presence and the emotional presence of the Leo full moon. Now we have this spiritual courage, and it dissolves the fear for us, hopefully, around taking initiative, for standing up, for speaking to whatever it is that we need to speak to, and and helps us to, in some ways, take action before certainty arrives. Now, I want to, that's kind of a slippery slope here too, right? I want to monitor that very carefully, because while we're all designed to take action in the right and perfect timing, and the divine right timing, if you will, if you act before the right timing, then it can, essentially blow up in your face or not work out the way that you wanted it to. So we have to be very careful here. But I think what it's trying to tell us is that the mind never does have certainty. You might think you have certainty, especially if you have a defined head and ajna, or a defined ajna to the throat. You may speak to what you believe is certainty. But if you're acting on certainty may never come. And then you've lost your window of opportunity to take action. So that's also a feature of this moon, is knowing when is the right time to take action, right? When is the right time to take that next right step? So Neptune here whispers that you don't need to have a perfect plan to stand up for what's humane, what's human, right? And this isn't hopefully about rage and violence, although it's a Martian ruled sign, Aries is. So it could possibly be that we have some people out there that are reactive and turn into rage and violence. It's really about moral ignition, and the moral ignition, the courage to begin again, even when the world feels overwhelming, to stand up and say what's right. And when you say, or I said to myself this morning, like, we are marshaling our forces together, our forces of courage and wisdom. So when I say that, I mean, this is the archetype that Leo provides for us. It's the following of your heart. It's the listening from here, this deeper place from within. And Aquarius provides us a collective awareness of what is going on, and of the, relative humaneness versus inhumaneness of what's going on. And that can turn into collective awareness, being aware, maybe not taking action on, but being aware of what it is. And then Neptune in Aries does provide us the spiritual nerve to take those next steps. So wherever you have Aquarius in your chart and Leo in your chart, that's going to form an axis right across from one another, because Leo and Aquarius are opposing one another. So here's where you're balancing maybe the emotional energy that you're feeling versus the aloofness perhaps of the Aquarian stellium, and choosing how it is that you're going to show up in this world. Now, I'm not saying that you all have to become spiritual or political activists, but what if you became an activist for your own life, for your own self, right? Forwarding your own courage, forwarding your own passion, and putting yourself out there in the world. It doesn't have to be about the politics or about what we see going on outside. It could be what's going on in here. What's been keeping you from doing some of the things that you really want to do, from enjoying life for yourself, right? Because this is seemingly a pretty inward job this time, this moon, that is also asking us to change the outer world by changing ourselves first. I hope that makes sense, right? You've got to change your point of view. You have to change your own thinking patterns. You have to change to create from your own desires before you see the changes in that outer world, right? I mean, it's a universal law. As within, so without. So we have to, if you want to see a more peaceful world, then you have to create more peaceful inner world. And when you do that, then the perspective, the perceptions that you hold of the outer world change, right? Now it doesn't look so chaotic or crazy. And it's a process, because, just as sure as you think you've got a lock on finding peace and your passion and you're following your dream, something happens, right? And it can knock you out of that. So that's the challenge, of course, in not only in this full moon, but just in life in general, is how Easy or difficult is it for you to get back in alignment with your heart? So Leo, heart, Aquarius, objectivity, right? So we're juxtaposing these two energies across from one another. So this full moon in Leo really reflects a moment when people hopefully stop waiting for permission to live their lives, to do what they love. And this is also reflecting a moment when perhaps emotional truth becomes itself a form of resistance, right? Your emotions pointing you in the correct direction instead of being reactive to the emotion, noticing what the emotion is calling up for you, right? Calling up from your depths, calling you to do what action seems like the next best thing to do in the face of the emotion. We're going to talk a lot more about that shortly here. Now, this also reflects a moment when courage is quieter, steadier, and deeply human. There is that component, right? We are tapping into our fellow human beings, right? Our fellow life forms on the planet, because I don't think it's just human, although there is that because of Aquarius, but also the animal world, the plant world, just the whole of the elemental world. Everything here is being looked at through this lens of humanity, right? Humanity. Now, standing up for humanity doesn't look like grand heroics, right? It doesn't have to be, the grand heroic person or the hero character, because I think in our world, we can be our own heroes, right? Each one of us can be heroic in our own way. But it does look like refusing numbness, refusing to just stand by idly when something bad is happening, or to feel so numb that you don't say what needs to be said. And it also looks like choosing empathy over abstraction. And it also looks like we're acting from felt truth rather than an ideology, right? Rather than a belief system, it's what we feel inside as the truth. Okay. So this Leo full moon isn't asking us to roar louder, right? I'm not saying you got to get out there and just yell at what's happening in the world. It's asking you to feel more deeply. It's asking all of us to really feel into what is going on in our own personal lives, but also in the collective, and let that feeling guide your courage in a world that's becoming increasingly impersonal, or so it seems at this particular moment. All right. So questions. How's everybody feeling about this? Let me see who else is out there that we want to say good morning to. And Teddy, hello to you. And Kamal, good to see you out there. Paulette, good morning. Jackie or J-Lo, good morning. Joan Durchie, good morning. Teddy, hit the like and subscribe, follow and like today. Hit the heart. Do all that good stuff, right? Share the video with others. It's becoming a time when the voices of hope and of a future that doesn't look so bleak is meant to come and rise to the surface, right? It has looked rather bleak. It's still, if you tap into just what is happening out there in the world, sometimes in the news cycle, it is rather bleak, but we don't always know what's true either, right? True and falsehoods are very hard to tease out. So when that happens, what you have is your own moral courage, right? Your own ethics, your own humanity to lean into and, step away from the news cycle. It doesn't mean bury your head in the sand and become numb. It does say, though, tap in here, right? Tap in here. Amy D is in super stuck mode. My moon is in Aquarius, 7th house, and Leo is my rising with Mars at 10 degrees. And they're only one color. Yep, but it's cleaner. It's cleaner, Tom, and that's why I use it. But you know what I could do next time? I could pull out that one part and make it bigger. But you can also expand it on your own screen, right? You can make if you're on YouTube, which it looks like you are, you can click the very bottom of the video and make it full screen so that you can see it much closer. Okay, let's address Amy in super stuck mode across Leo and Aquarius. By the way, those two signs are fixed signs. So they can get pretty stuck. Or if we want to reframe it, we can say that it's very stable energy. And in order, to make a change, it needs to have an injection perhaps of desire, or a push from, maybe within or without, outside of you, in order to move forward. So take a look at what it is you're stuck in. Is it when it's across your first and seventh house? That makes me think you're stuck either in relationships or in agreements that you've made, that maybe you need to rewrite some contracts or agreements with others. Maybe you're kind of snowed under with obligation that you are wanting to rewrite or get out from under. So if you want to give me a little bit more information, Amy, about where you feel stuck in your life, we can help untie this. Now, this full moon is in Leo at 13 degrees, so it does put it very close to your natal Mars, apparently. If your rising is Leo and Mars is at 10 degrees, that moon is on top of Mars. So that should give you some impetus for change and for transforming whatever it is that you're stuck in. And I got to tell you, over the last, I don't know, maybe year, I have felt rather stuck myself. Leo is on my second house, and I have more than one Leo planet, several Leo planets, none at 13 degrees, though. This is good for me for the full moon. And I had to reframe what being stuck meant first. So what did it mean for me? And what it came down for me, and I don't know where this will come down for you, is that I was stuck in a pattern of thinking I needed to be something that I wasn't, or that I needed to be something in order to be heard, seen, valued, or recognized, because the second house has a lot of self-worth, self-esteem, confidence kind of issues, tied up in there. So maybe first reframe your own personhood, because it's in your first house, right? That if you got a Leo rise and that's what you said, that's what you're doing, rewriting, that taking a look deeper, at what it is that you've maybe pigeonholed yourself into. And then now you're juxtaposing that against the Aquarian side, the seventh house in your chart, which would seem to say that maybe that you've gotten caught in a group of people, or a family of people, or a community that it doesn't quite resonate with you. And if that's the case, then you have to find your own resonance in some way, shape, or form and move in that direction. Okay. So let me know how that feels. Let's see. Oh, okay, Tom. So thank you for that feedback. Tamra, good morning to you. Jackie, J-Lo says, my Saturn is at 13 degrees. Is it 13 degrees of Leo, Taurus? Where is it? Because if it's at 13 degrees, it is also going to be hit by the full moon in whatever geometric configuration that is going to be. Asa, my friend, I have missed you. It's good to see you. Jana, good morning. Happy full moon weekend to you as well. Let me go back and make sure I didn't miss anybody else's. What degree the Leo full moon is at 13 degrees of Leo. Okay, 13.04, I believe it is. So very early 13 degrees, which means if you give it a 6-degree orb, you 13 degrees to 19 degrees on one side if you have planets in that degree span, but then on the other side, maybe 7 degrees to 13 degrees on the other side of that. And if you look in Leo and you have quite a few planets, as I do in my own chart, then I've got to look at that a little deeper, because they can all be playing in, or the full moon can be triggering all of those particular planets as well. So there you have it. Irene, good morning to you. And I saw somebody new out here. It's me, Namira. Good to see you, Namira. Thank you for joining us today. And Irene says, happy Friday. Lots of love from Fairy Tale Woods in Sweden. Nice to have you with us. And Jacqueline, or J-Lo, Cancer in the second house. Cancer in the second house. But where's Leo? Where's your Leo house? So Cancer in the second. So are you a Leo rising? No, you would be Leo on the third house. So the third house would be about the mind. It would be about communication, siblings, neighborhood, neighbors, community, that type of thing. You're welcome, Amy. And Asa said her moon is in Leo in the 9th house at 9 degrees. So definitely involved with this. I think, isn't this the second time a moon has been impacting you, Asa, in that at Leo ninth house. So are you still broadening your horizons, right? Are you still looking at more travel or the expansion of your philosophy and belief systems? So if so, this moon is really bringing that up. And it could be cracking you out of any of the old beliefs that you have across the way in the Aquarian third house. That's probably where you have some real work to do. What's going on up here in your head that might be keeping you small? Christine, so we look where our Leo is. Leo's in the fourth house with Uranus RX. So yes, you're going to be looking where Leo is in the chart. That's where the moon is. And exactly opposite of that in Aquarius is where all of the planets in Aquarius will be. So the full moon, because it's an axis, it's not just the moon in one place. It's really kind of this axis of energy and those houses. So in your case, fourth house and 10th house, home, family, security, safety, foundation versus the person that you are in the world, your reputation, your work, your career, your profession, just how you show up in the world. That's the axis in which you're working on that, Christine. Asa and Saturn in Aquarius in the third house. So lots of lessons that you are going through at this point in time. It's time for you and I to sit and have a chat. Namira has a 15-degree Leo in rising in first house in my birthday chart. So 15 degrees Leo. So you're also sitting very close, then you're rising to this full moon. So I think there's a lot going on personally for you in terms of what are you emotionally, how are you emotionally approaching your creativity, your self-expression, the permission maybe that you're giving yourself to live from courage and heart. It could be a very interesting time for you because you know what the full moon does frequently is it brings something to a close or it reveals something, right? It has a completion signature as well as a revelation signature to it. So looking deep within what might be revealed to you. And of course, a lot of that has to do with your age as well and where you are in your life cycle, right? Are you at your first Saturn return? Are you in a Uranus opposition? Are you in a Chiron return, second Saturn return? Those things also play into how this moon may actually fit in with the life that you are leading. Willow Rose, good morning to you, an Aquarius moon. So you have an opposition between your own natal moon and the need for you to be detached, aloof, and be emotionally non-reactive versus the Leo moon that's very self-expressive and expresses itself emotionally in this case. So how do you balance that in your life? Okay, Jana, I knew what you meant, I think. Irene has a Leo moon, or she has Leo in the 11th and 12th houses. So you're splitting in whole sign charts like I use, which by the way, if you live in Sweden, the whole sign chart may really make more sense for you because you're at a significantly northern latitude. The whole sign charts work better for that rather than Placidus because the houses in a northern latitude chart in Placidus can become like very teeny or very wide, where the whole sign chart evens them out. So that would put Leo likely fully in your 11th or your 12th house, depending on how that splits. And that would mean that for you, you're either dealing with your position within groups and who you hang out with and who you associate with, or you're working through the inner world, the inner landscape of the 12th house and having to maybe take some time for yourself and some solitude and reflection time. Willow Rose, Leo is in Jupiter and Mercury in the 6th house. So Jupiter's in Leo, I think you mean. And Willow, going back. Okay, so are you saying Leo is on your 6th house? Because if so, that's the house of well-being. It's the house of healing and health. It's a house of service and how you show up in the world, sharing of yourself, your gifts, your time, your efforts. So having Jupiter and Mercury there might mean that you really have a path of speaking your truth and sharing of yourself that way through messaging, through some form of health or healing technique, writing, speaking, acting, posting, social media, all of that kind of stuff. And let's see, after that, Tamara, Leo sun in the 7th house. I'm a Leo, Saturn with Chiron in the 2nd house, ruled by Pisces. So Leo in your 7th house. So this has to do with relationships. This has, I think, a lot to do for you, Tamara, specifically on the agreements that you have entered into, whether spoken or unspoken, in the relationships in your life, right? Sometimes we get into relationships, and this probably happens to all of us at times, right? We get into a relationship, and then somehow we fall into certain patterns in the relationship or agreements within the relationship that aren't expressly spoken or signed off on a bottom line kind of thing. So maybe you're reevaluating those agreements and those relationships, through a lens of, you know, obligation versus freedom, right? Can I free myself from some of the obligations in which I have got myself cornered, got myself into a tight spot? And the tendency for a Leo Aquarius axis is to stay in those things, right? To stay in there. Those are stable and fixed signs. So you might need to find yourself emotionally connecting with what it would be like to be free of that, right? Okay. And you can tell me if that's true or false or if something else is going on. Asa says, yes, the second time. And yes, expanding too. I love it. Lots of expansion. I like that. And it will be a full house in the 12th house, in a full moon in the 12th house for Namira. Namira, that's a lot of inner reflection, taking time for yourself, maybe doing some journaling, some meditation, some retreat, right? Solitude is your friend. Looking at the patterns in your life specifically that might be of self-sabotaging nature, because this would be the time to rise above that, using courage of the heart to break out of any old patterns like that. And yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. And you're 60. So you've just come out of Namira. You've just come through your second Saturn return. You are heading into a time, you've been in a time, but you're probably really getting more clarity now about what it is that you want to release and what is no longer suitable for you, right? What no longer feels good for you to resonate to. And that's a huge time of life. I've been through this time myself, and I get it, right? It's difficult to realize that you've got to let go of some things, whether it's things or relationships or people that you don't want to associate with anymore, old beliefs, philosophies that just don't fit. There's a lot of pruning in your life that's going on right now in the area of this particular moon, I would guess. Thank you, Asa. You're so sweet. And is it too late to sign up for the 2026 year webinar? No, absolutely not. That is actually coming up February 21st, a Saturday. I'm trying something new, a Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So that will be noon East Coast time. And we will walk through the true new year, which begins in March, of the astrological landscape, and it's $25. I will put that link up before we leave today for you, and definitely go ahead and sign up for that. Jacqueline, I have a progressed Venus 8 and moon 8 in Leo, 8 degrees in Leo, so those are both involved with this. Progressed Venus, meaning how are your relationships? How is your value and self-worth progressing through your life? It sounds like you're getting more heart-centered, more centered around self, right? Not selfish, but more self-centered, maybe because the people that were around you are growing up and moving away or lessening your responsibilities. And now you have more time to devote to your own creative expression. That's a great time. And it says Mars or Sun, but I see Mars in my 9th house with moon ruled by Libra. I don't have your chart in front of me, but I can pull that up for you someday if you'd like. Jackie, I don't know if that's safe. It is safe, definitely. Tom, my natal moon with the cross under it, like Venus, is at 13 Leo. The moon, okay, that's the black moon Lilith. So yes, you and I both have the black moon Lilith right at about 15 degrees. Mine's at 15, but you were 3 weeks older than me, so maybe it was at 13 degrees for you. And that means you are in a big position of giving yourself permission to be you. to be you, to live you fully out loud. Or let's see, isn't Leo? No, Leo's in your 12th house. So for you, then that you're giving yourself permission to quit the self-sabotage. So you're probably doing a lot of soul searching right now. And that what I would say with this is the Black Moon Lilith gives you the permission to take a stand for what's really true for you, for who you really want to be, irregardless of all the noise that's gone out there, in your life. And gives you maybe a permission to look more closely at what you really do have right now, right? What's really activated in your life. And I know that sounds like totally like where you've kind of been, but maybe you're looking at this through a different lens now, right? A different lens, more emotionally accepting of yourself and loving of yourself, and seeing the love in the relationships that you currently have versus what's gone on in the past with the people around you. It's definitely a maturing energy of your thought processes and everything that has to do with the mind, the soul, everything. Soul progress, that's what we'll call it. Sorry, very complicated, Tamara said. Leo in the 12th. Namira, my granddaughter was born last night. Congratulations. Grandchildren are such blessings. I mean, I've got several of them. I know this. Natal Mars and Uranus are in there too in Leo. Yep, so are mine. I get this. So you are really digging deep into the inner self. That's like your whole path with this full moon, even, is to look deeper at yourself and look at your own responsibility for the relationships that you are in and have been in the past, not as a way to beat yourself up over them, but as a way to get clarity about who it is that I want to be now. How do I want to show up in relationships now? Right? Stop holding on to the past so much, right? It's hard for Leo, again, because it's a fixed sign. And the heart has been broken. I know your heart has been broken. All of our hearts have been broken at times, in relationships. But taking and bringing all of that, and settling with that, because that's all in the past. And what's now and right in front of you, and living from there. And let's see what else. Gosh, I love it when you guys are all this interactive. I just love this. Tamara, I've been learning a lot about some relationships with people who I love deeply. What has been revealed has been heart-wrenching. Wish those truths weren't true. Having to walk away. Very sad. Sometimes it is sad. It's sad. It could be sad on a couple of levels. It could be sad on the level that, oh my God, I've wasted so much time of my life in these relationships that were one-sided or were not supportive, or whatever, words you're going to use to describe that, Tamara. And on the other hand, it could be really sad because these are people that you've loved and that you've had maybe, experiences with, and it's sad to think that they will no longer be a part of your future or of your present. But the real truth here is that emotionally, you're being asked to step into your own power and to be your own true self. And if you cannot be your own true self around those people, then you're not living out your soul's purpose, right? It doesn't mean that you don't still love them, or that you can still be, a part of their lives. It just means you're going to monitor how much devotion you have to those relationships. Maybe they're just, passing relationships now, right? So I hope you understand that difference. And Tom, I'm sure they're maturing. What's that? I love it. Tom says, Tom says to Tamara, I know your pain, right? It's like the human pain. It's part of the human pain. Now, that brings me to the solar plexus energy of the month of February. So I'm going to share the human design chart now, and this is hopefully more colorful and visible for all of you because it's against that black background. So in February, other than this first week of February, from the 2nd to the 7th, where the sun falls at the 13, gate 13. How funny, the full moon on the 1st is at the 13th degree. And then the next day, the sun moves into the gate 13 in human design. And the gate 13 is, an interesting gate, and we'll get into that in just a minute. But I want to talk about the solar plexus, because if you look here, there is a tremendous amount of energy for the rest of February, from February 8th to the end of the month in the solar plexus of the human design chart. And the solar plexus fields the emotional energy. And the solar plexus in human design is not about emotional reactivity. It's been the human experience so far that in the emotional center, we have been very emotionally reactive and moody and things like that. But it's meant to be the center of emotional intelligence. It's meant to be the center of relational truth. And it's about nervous system awareness. So, and let me explain that for a minute, because the solar plexus, the gut, is filled with nerve endings, right? Nerve synapses and so forth, almost more in the gut than there are in the brain, right? So there's a lot of juice, if you will, going on through the solar plexus in the human body. And so the nervous system being related here says that we're often in reaction to the things that stress us out, or to the outside events that feel like we need to be afraid of, or that we are needing to stand up and respond to. Response is one thing, but what happens frequently right now is that we become reactive, right? And right now, what we're going through, what we're being asked to elevate to, is the evolution of feelings into wisdom. And emotion here moves in waves, right? Emotion has highs and lows, it flows, and not straight lines. So otherwise we would just be these, we would always be on the same energy frequency of emotion, and that doesn't happen. Yet for us to make the best decisions now, especially if you are human design emotionally defined, clarity comes after the wave and never in the heat of the wave. So it doesn't come at the high, and it doesn't come in the low. It comes in the neutral space, when we can neutralize those high-low feelings, right? When we can say with confidence, that's right for me. Yes, this is where I'm going, or this is what I will do. So when the sun is moving through the solar plexus center, all the gates of the solar plexus here, the collective lesson is about not deciding in the moment. It really is about feeling your way into what it is that comes next. What is it that you feel? Now, like I said, this begins not in the solar plexus, or February does not begin in the solar plexus. It begins on the identity center. It begins right here at the gate 13 with the sun, and the earth will be at gate 7. And they are in the identity center, the seat of love and direction, the seat of the soul. So how is it that this plays into what February will kind of unfold for us? And the gate 13 is called the gate of narrative in quantum human design. I think in traditional human design, it was called the gate of the listener. So it has a lot to do with listening, and then listening not only to what others are saying, but to the story, that the narrative that you're saying, right? What is it that I'm speaking to? Even though it's not on the throat, it ends up reaching up to the throat center. So what story are you carrying? And what voice from your past is still shaping your identity? In other words, what narrative wants to be heard and witnessed or released, so that you can really live the truth for who you are. And with the earth in the gate 7, which is called collaboration, it's not a solo story. This is a collective one. It's leadership through listening, maybe. It's a shared vision rather than control of the messaging. So February really begins with meaning making, and on a personal level, but you'll also see it likely happening out on a collective level, as certain people in the world are trying to control the narrative and tell us what it is that we're feeling, or what stories are out there that aren't simply not true, perhaps, or that are made up, completely fake, false, and not real, versus what's real, right? And then this is the key. The sun drops down into the solar plexus from this storyline, from this narrative line, from our needing to learn about what's true, and what's being held in the stories, both solo stories or personal stories and collective. And this move is really interesting because it moves from what's the story to how does this actually feel in my body and in my relationships? Does this feel like the right story? Does this feel correct? Does this feel even true for me anymore? So we move from interpretation of a story and of what it is that we've been, the tall tales versus the story, into what does it feel like, into the embodiment of the emotional energy. So February's emotional arc is really kind of taking us through this progressive emotional wave. And using the gene keys, we can actually see the frequency bands. What is it we're meant to rise through? And we may not get through all of these today because it's already 10 to 9, but I'll try to get through as many of them as I can. And if I don't get through all of them, we can go, we'll start on Monday with that. So if we look at the sun, so from the gate 13, the sun moves down into the gate 49, right down here at the bottom or the top left of the solar plexus center. Now, this is the solar plexus initiation point, if you will, because the gate 49 is called the gate of the catalyst, or the gate of the rebel, or rebellion, or revolution, even in some ways. So as we look at where the sun goes, this first run through the emotional center, we see this spark, something happening in this spark. When we look at this through the gene keys, the 49's shadow is called reaction. It's reaction instead of the gift, which is revolution. And the siddhi, when we go to the highest level, it's rebirth. So we see kind of this lightning bolt. We see this like flash of something revolutionary that's potential, but we need to stay out of the energy of reaction. So this is the emotional truth breaking through denial. And there's a lot of denial out there, right? There's a lot of people denying what it is that's going, what's unfolding, what the truth of what people are trying to do to us out there. The shifting of the world, it seems like, to more authoritarianism, away from democracy and freedom. And that's something we all have to take up within ourselves and look at, and how are we participating in that? So the 49, the sun here, catalyzes when something becomes intolerable. And it's the moment you realize that you're pretending that something's working and it isn't. Right? So what do I do about it? Because you got to do something once you have that recognition. But let's look at where the earth is in all of this, because the earth lands up here in the gate 4. So the same week that the solar plexus sun has us lighting up this catalyzing energy, the earth up here is saying the mind wants answers. This is called the gate of possibility. And the mind wants answers, but the emotional body says, wait, it's not clear yet. We don't have an actual idea yet of what it is. This gate also tells us that there are umpteen possibilities, right? We don't have to be just one thing. It can be many things. So that week, the first from the 8th, what was this week? This is going to be from February 8th through the 12th. It's not a week for making snap decisions. It's really a week for noticing what your emotions are rebelling against. What are your emotions, your feelings, your moods rebelling against? Is it something in your outer world? Is it something that you have to do that feels like obligation that you don't want to do? Is it something that's going on within you that you are rebelling against? So that's a week for taking a look at that. And how does that all tie in to the emotional energy? And, remember, the idea is that you want rebirth. That's where the highest energy is taking you. So to get to rebirth, though, you're taking yourself on a journey from reaction to rebirth by going through a revolution, a re-evolution, right? Re-establishing the evolutionary path that you are on. Now, February 13th through 18th, we get to the sun in the gate 30. And by the way, there are certain gates in human design that we call red flag gates. And we call them red flag gates because they ramp up or amp up the energies that they represent. The 49 is a red flag gate as well. The 30 is a red flag gate. So you could see this is, February has this really passionate sort of emotional energy running through it. So all of us like feeling the lightning rod of this. And this is where the emotional heat rises in the gate 30. It's called the gate of passion and desire. In the shadow, it's actually desire. And, the reason is because, in passion, you're aimed at what you love, but desire almost links us to the want of something and the recognition or the feeling that we don't have it and that we have to grasp for it. So rather than linking up to desire, we want to move into the gift level of the gate 30 or gene key 30, which is lightness, holding that passion and that desire with lightness. And then we get to the highest level, the siddhi, which is rapture. And think of that word, wrapped, right? Just this wise attention to what is creatively in your heart. And the gate 30 can fuel longing and hunger and intensity because it is red flag, right? It's like showing you where it is that you need to make some changes. Where is it? How do you have to align yourself better with what you are passionate about? But it does ask for right relationship with that desire. So not an attachment to the outcome of the desire. So you kind of, this gets linked with the gate 29, by the way, with the earth at the gate 29, the gate of commitment. So this really kind of takes a look at what it is that we commit ourselves to. What is it we say yes to? Are we saying yes to the things that support our passion? Or are we saying yes to just everything out there because we don't have a bead on what our real passion is? Or because we just feel like saying yes to everything gets us, like we're throwing spaghetti at things and seeing what sticks, what lands, what's going to stick around. And that's not the truth either, right? Here in the gate 30, you need to look at where you have an overcommitment to something that you did not have clarity about yet. And the wisdom is to learn to say yes to things only when the emotional wave has settled, because sometimes we're saying yes in the height of a moment, but you know what? You can also say no, and that might be incorrect as well. It's best to stay kind of open-minded and non-committal until you have absolute clarity. And I say absolute, and that's even wrong because we might not ever have absolute clarity with the emotional center. We have to go with what comes to neutral, where it just feels right, and take action on that. So the question really becomes, what are you truly available for? What do you truly want to use your energy for? What are you emotionally aligned with and energetically aligned with? And then act on that passion when it's appropriate, right? When you have the aha moment, or when you have the revelation that that's the correct next action for you to take. I hope that makes sense, because this can get really messed up. And I'm not saying it's not okay to have a desire or a want, but you have to hold it lightly, right? Because the universe has a bigger point of view and might know a better way to bring you that desire, or may know better than, has a bigger perspective on how to bring all of that to you. And if you're holding on to the attachment of something and how it should come and how it should be and when is it going to come, it's not here yet, then it kind of diminishes the excitement of living your passion, right? It can even pull you away from that passion. All right. So I'm going to stop here for now. And on Monday, we'll take up the other gates that are going to be a part. If you want to look ahead, the gate 55, and then the gate 37 will be the last 2 weeks of the sun with the solar plexus energy. And I want you to also realize that the very last week of February mirrors where the north and south nodes are, right? So that'll be something that we take up on Monday. All right, let me look back and see if there are any questions, thoughts. I got to go backwards here. Hi, Peggy. Good to see you out there. Tom's had to let go of close family members, including children, 10 years now. It hurts deep. It does. I can't even imagine. So my hanging 19 is now connected to 49, or it will be, right? It will be connected to the 49, February 8th through the 12th. And that's the entire channel of connection, right? It's the 1949 is the energy of belonging. And how do we fit in with the people, the relationships that we are in? And sometimes it can be a place where you want to belong so bad that you will stay in a relationship that's not good for you anymore, right? This is a very sensitive place in the human design, and it is something that you're probably, feeling viscerally inside if you're having to leave people in relationship that you're in. And having to work through that with this energy of wanting to belong. It's difficult. It feels difficult. Okay, Jacqueline or J-Lo, I would take 49 in my SQ and 30 in your personality MC. Can I get a refund? Just kidding. I'm so ready for this. Yeah, it's there. So much of your chart sometimes, J-Lo, is about the revolutionary energy of who you are, right? How you spark things in people. And sometimes, accidentally sparking other people, and sometimes purposefully sparking other people. Doesn't make you wrong. It just means that, you can sometimes be that lightning rod. TD Hawk, my 29 is defined and hanging. Aha moments are treasured, reminding myself to be patient for those people that are correct for me. I'm thinking is what you mean. You're very welcome, Namira, and you're welcome, Tamara, and Christine, you're welcome. And Teddy had to let go of Steve, a brother in my heart. He is always there. Tippy, his name was Tippy Steven. Christine Buckingham, defined root, undefined solar plexus. That is something we'll take up on Monday, because I think that's an important thing, because 50% of you out there have an open solar plexus, and it's going to be hit all week or all month long. So thank you for saying that, Christine. I will point that out for people on Monday. So get a copy of your human design chart. If you do not have it, come to my website, living-astrology.com, and get a copy of it. Join me on Monday where we can break this down. And hold on for 1 second as I need to put the link up for people to join me for the Astro Design is what I really called it, of 2026. And I'll give you that link to sign up for that. And then why? I don't need that. One moment. And I need the URL and copy URL. There we go. So, and I will share that on the screen for those of you who want to join me there. Terry Strauss, good morning to you. No, nope. Okay, I got to know more. Okay. Let me share this too show it on the screen for people. All right. That is where you can go to sign up for the February 21st webinar on astrology or astro design for 2026. Thank you all for joining me today. Have a wonderful weekend. I will see you on Monday. Don't forget, bring your human design chart so we can work through all of that. Take care. Bye for now.